In this video, I want to explain why humanity has struggled to address and solve the human condition. So I want to talk a bit more about what the human condition is and what a fabulous world that it now opens up for humans now that we can understand ourselves. And as I pointed out, virtually all the problems that we face are a result of our often brutally uncaring, aggressive and selfish behaviour, our human condition. And that's easy to point out, but there's been a huge problem with this underlying real issue of the human condition. Every time we thought about our horrifically brutal or divisive nature, while we couldn't understand it, we had no choice. We ended up extremely confronted and depressed by it. So much so that we just learnt that we had no choice but to stop thinking about this deepest and darkest and most off limits of subjects, our seemingly worthless and destructive condition. There's a poet called Gerard Manley Hopkins who wrote a poem about the human condition. And in it, he refers to these mountains of the mind and their cliffs of fall, frightful sheer, no man fathomed. And that's what he's saying, is that while we haven't been able to fathom or understand this great underlying issue of the human condition, these mountains of our mind, it only led to cliffs of fall of frightful depression. So we've learnt that we had no choice but to leave the whole damn issue just of the human condition alone. Just get on with trying to manage the symptoms of it. All the aggression, all the wars, all the inequality and suffering. Just leave that whole underlying issue alone. Just nothing to do with the human condition. And so that's made the human condition this great elephant in our living rooms of our lives. The main issue in all our lives, but the one that we've never been able to deal with. But now we can finally explain the human condition, and this situation suddenly changes. We can finally confront the subject and completely free ourselves of it. The truth sets us free from the human condition. And I've just got this picture here that Jeremy Griffith drew, which is this amazing example or image of the elephant in the living room, the proverbial elephant, where you can see it's this massive, it's right on the walls, and the people in the living room are just squeezed right up on the edges. And that's what the human condition's like. It's completely full of this massive issue, but nobody can see or deal with that issue. So, yes, these mountains of the mind and their cliffs of fall, frightful sheer, no man fathomed. I mean, that really captures the problem that we've had with the human condition. In the mountains of the mind of our deepest thoughts, there's this issue, this one issue that's led us to these sheer cliffs of fall. In other words, frightful depression, while ever we couldn't fathom or understand it. But that's the point. Somebody has finally reached the bottom of the well of what it is to be human and brought back from those terrifying depths of, and they've brought back the explanation of the human condition. And that is what Jeremy Griffith has done in his book Freedom. And having found that redeeming understanding, we can all now safely confront the subject of the human condition. And as the saying goes again, the truth will set you free. And it finally has. So, I mean, it is exciting what's happened. It's incredibly exciting. You won't be able to quite get into your mind how exciting it is for a while. But this is where we currently live. This is us, and we're squeezed by this massive issue that's in all our lives, and we can't deal with it. We can't even acknowledge it's there. But here we are, and we're just jumping for joy. This is what it's going to be like for every single one of us. Jumping for utter joy that we're free, and we can finally understand the human condition. Actually, the Greek philosopher Plato who's regarded as the greatest philosopher of all time. His main insight was that humans have lived in such fear of the human condition that they hide deep in a cave, unable to face the exposing light of the sun that would reveal their corrupted condition. But you can see that with understanding of our human condition, we can at last get out of that horrible dark cave and finally live in the relieving and healing and reconciling, understanding sunshine. And you can see it here. There's a picture of it. And here it is, all of us living in this deep, dark, horrible cave of denial and fear, and we can't bear to look at the sun, but now we haven't been able to, but now we can. We can walk out, just stroll, race, dance straight up to the horizon and dance in the redeeming light and warmth of knowledge. And that's what's happened. So, if you think about it, what I've just said about us humans having lived in fear of the underlying issue of the human condition, it makes sense that our mind will be in a certain amount of shock at having this whole deep and dark and terribly forbidden subject to the human condition finally being addressed and explained. The human condition is a very difficult subject, but probably the initial reaction from most of us will be that we can't see how terrified we are of it. We'll be thinking like, oh no, I know about all the bloody hideous problems out there in the world. I've been talking about them for years. But what you'll soon realise is that your human condition is not out there, it's in here. And it's in yourself. It's underlying all your thoughts, all your actions, all your behaviour. And the truth is that you've spent your whole life working out and perfecting how to avoid it and how to work around it and make it even try to appear as though you're unaffected by it. We smile, we joke, we put on this incredibly brave faces, but underneath it all, it's always there. And that's how you're going to know that what is being presented on this website is true. So, yes, having lived in fear of this all-important issue of the human condition, we have to expect a certain amount of shock at having the subject even raised. The human condition is the real upriver issue that had to be solved, but we're not at all used to looking at it, you know? So you've just got to be a bit patient and just slowly work your way into what's being presented on this website. And everybody, now that the explanation is finally here, has to get used to have the human condition being talked about. But I was just going to show you this. This is Plato's most celebrated book, most famous book, called The Republic. And I just wanted to read you this quote out of it because it's just amazing what it says about he made a prediction and that there would be this problem called the death effect when the explanation of the human condition finally arrives. And he said that when finally someone gets out of the cave and returns with the answer to the human condition, and he used the term human condition. I mean, this is 3,000 years ago. He said the cave prisoners, their eyes would be so overwhelmed by the brightness of it that they wouldn't be able to see a single one of the things that they were now being told were real. And certainly not at first, because they need to grow accustomed to the light. And that's what I'm suggesting. We just need to be patient. And we just have to take our time connecting with this human race, liberating understanding of the human condition. And that's the point. The human condition is the upriver, underlying real issue that had to be solved. And now it finally has been solved. So we can all now be free of the human condition. This, I'm honestly not joking, this is the real breakthrough that the whole human race, every single person that's ever lived, has lived in hope, faith, and trust upon trust that one day it would be found. And thank God it finally has, because the need for this deeper understanding and the only real solution to all our problems couldn't be more desperately needed. So all I can say is bring on the great awakening of the human race from having to live in this horrible cave of darkness and come and burst into the most wonderful, light-filled life that is possible.